Hey, history lovers. Picture this. It's 1223, and some terrified refugees come stumbling out of the steps with a warning that sounds like something out of a nightmare. They're talking about mysterious warriors who appeared out of nowhere, and nobody knows who the hell they are or where they came from. One chronicler wrote, "The same year for our sins, unknown tribes came. God alone knows who they are and whence they came." What these people didn't realize was that they just had their first encounter with the most devastating war machine the world had ever seen. Today, we're diving into the brutal story of how the Mongol Empire steamrolled through the Kievan Rus, turning one of Europe's most powerful kingdoms into a pile of smoking rubble. So these armored soldiers are getting exhausted chasing down these strange forces that kicked their butts about a week ago. The refugees from the steppes had begged the quarreling princes of the Kievan Rus to get their act together and raise their armies against what they called a great godless horde. Now, at the banks of the Kalkar River, holding up their proud banners, the Rus finally catch sight of their enemy. These Mongols had just finished absolutely demolishing the mighty Islamic Khwarezmian Empire, turning it into burning heaps of corpses, and chasing its king into the Caspian Sea. They'd come north under Commander Subutai and Jeeb the Scout and make war in uncharted lands. This young Kievan Rus prince named Danilo leads his men straight across the river. In this crazy charge of cloud of arrows, Danilo actually breaks through and kills several Mongols. But then one enemy gets him right in the chest. And when his allies ride in to help, the Mongol horse archers just outflank them completely. The Mongols chase the exhausted Rus into scattered retreat and massacre thousands of them. Riding back through silver fields of Rus corpses, the Mongols head east, and nobody hears from them again. Danilo and the other surviving princes just limp back to their thrones, probably thinking, what the hell just happened? Their presence in these remote European lands had been revealed, not to some nameless wild tribes, but to the most powerful man in the world. The Mongols were now making the long journey back to the court of Genghis Khan. Here's the thing about the Kievan Rus. It was founded way back in the 9th century and used to be strong and united at Europe's eastern edge. But as centuries passed, powerful principalities rose within its borders, clans and aristocrats started feuding, and the trade routes dried up. The power of the Kievan Rus got fractured and divided among lesser princes, who were just as likely to fight each other as they were to fight outsiders. Roman the Great tried to restore the Federation to its Golden Age glory, unifying several regions and becoming master of all Western Rus, ruling mainly in what we now call Ukraine. But he got killed in battle. His son Danilo claims the lands his father ruled, but he only controls a portion of it, the western region of Galicia-Volhynia. Fast forward to 1237, 14 years after that battle at Kalkar, and terror reaches the eastern stretches of the Kievan Rus. The Mongol horde shows up demanding the surrender of the city of Ryazan. The people tell them to go to hell and fight off the first Mongol attacks pretty well, but they get overwhelmed fast. The Ryazan prince dies with the city, and it's later written that there was none left to groan and cry. Even though Genghis Khan died in 1227, his son Ogedai had taken over and ordered the conquest of the Kievan Rus. Genghis's grandson Bata leads the invasion, along with the top princes and generals of the empire, including that dreaded Subutai guy. They absolutely ravage the old principalities in their western push, massacring civilians, then ride south to sack Crimea. Badu and his forces ride under ashen skies in 1239. Beyond the path, domes rise pointed like closed flowers, topped by simple crosses. Below, peasants stir in their creaking hovels while carts and cattle lumber through the streets. Bada is actually taken back by the distant splendor of the capital, Kiev. He expresses his wish to spare the city if its people submit without resistance. But the Grand Prince of Kiev, Mikhail Chernigov, basically tells him to shove it and flees. So Bata leads his Mongols away to campaign elsewhere for about a year. Danilo installs his vassal Dmitry to rule the city, and when the rivers turn to ice, the rattle of the horde reaches Kiev's gates. Badu Khan pitched camp outside the city while his men besieged it, and one could not hear anything as a result of the great din caused by his screeching carts, countless bleeding camels, and neighing herds of horses. And the land of Rus became filled with soldiers. Chinese engineers pushed forward advanced siege weapons and splintered Kiev's timber walls. Stones hurtle from the sky and bury towers, homes, and people. After a few days, the invaders breach the walls. Kiev's people rush to meet them on the ramparts, killing the first zealous invaders. But the Mongols overtake them and soon ride rampant through the burning streets. Civilians retreat to the Church of the Tides, behind their desperate fortifications. They cluster around a radiant altar. With the Mongols at the doors, the frantic Kievans rush onto the strained balconies, and the church collapses, crushing hundreds within. The last vestiges of the Kievan Rus have fallen, and the lands to the west are now exposed. The Mongols under Batu and Subutai will press into Central Europe. Poles, Hungarians, Germans, and the Knights Templar will ride out to stop them and get scattered in the process. Prince Danilo gets word that his wife and children survived the Mongol invasion and fled to Poland. In a tearful reunion, he finds them by a river called Polka, then tells them it's not safe for them to stay there. He later leaves to survey his own fallen cities. Danilo came with his brother to Brest, but could not go out into the field because of the stink coming from the countless decaying dead. In all of Vladimir, not one person remained alive. The Church of the Blessed Virgin was filled with corpses, as were other churches. Here's the crazy part. Mongol conquest didn't end regional conflicts. Danilo and other princes kept their alliances and feuds, clashing with Poles and Lithuanians in the borderlands. But the Mongols kept a watchful eye on anyone who threatened their authority. Defeated princes and governors had to ask Bataclan to confirm their rulership in their former lands, so they could rule as vassals of the Mongols. They were required to offer tribute to the Khan in the form of taxes, soldiers, and laborers. Mikhail of Chernigiv comes to Bataclan's court in 1246. He bows in respect to the conqueror, but refuses Bata's demand about a Mongol icons and honor the dead Genghis Khan. We bow down to you and pay you homage, but we will not worship in the faith of your ancestors. We will not obey this order of yours, which is blasphemy in the eyes of God. Bata goes absolutely ballistic and orders Mikhail and his grandson stabbed to death. Mikhail of Chernigiv becomes a martyr and eventually attains sainthood. Prince Danilo, who'd been hunted by Bataclan's forces for a long time, is also summoned. He seeks the solemn wisdom and prayer of monks before answering the call. Batu and Danilo negotiate an exchange of military prisoners, and Batu offers Danilo a cup of mare's milk. Danilo confessed that he had not yet tried it, but would drink it if he wished, to which Batu replied that Danilo was already one of them, a Mongol, and should therefore drink their beverage. But Danilo's just playing along. He's actually looking to undermine the Mongols. In the coming years, he fosters good relations with Poland and Hungary and cultivates support from allies in the West. He begs Pope Innocent IV to bring Roman authority to his lands and mobilize a crusade against the Mongols. Although Danilo only gets the papal gift of a title and crown, King of Ruthenia, he and his sons and brother muster an army to reclaim their lands. They ride from town to town over the winter of 1254, sparing civilians but shattering the yoke of Mongol rule wherever they go. Danilo's gallant campaign starts casting out Mongol loyalists among the Rus, and this really ticks off the Mongol horde. Mongol General Keremsa readies an army sworn to crush this rebellion, and they move to take the city of Vladimir in 1257. The people of the city had long sought payback for their kin. Those of Mongols left rotting in the halls of sacred churches. Taking up their shields, the men of Vladimir fly out of the gates in a horseless attack. On the amber fields, they drive their spears to their enemies and wildly slay them with their swords. The Mongols scatter and flee. King Danilo's forces gallop out and hunt down more Mongols. But then Keremsa decides to punish the defenseless city of Lutsk. He arrives at a frigid and roaring river, and the people of Lutsk suddenly rush out and cut down the bridge in front of them. Keremsa abandons the siege and heads back to the steppes with his troops. While the victorious King Danilo plans to retake Kiev, the Mongols return in greater numbers under more capable leadership, offering the cruel promise of total annihilation if the cities refuse to submit. The Mongols order the destruction of Danilo's fortifications. King Danilo seeks refuge, and his brother Vasilko is forced to accept their terms. The military campaign against the Mongols is ended, but King Danilo will return. Over the years, Danilo rebuilt and expanded beyond the lands once ruled by his father. although they were vassals of the Mongol Empire. King Danilo of Galicia-Volhynia and his Ukrainian, Hungarian, Polish, and other subjects maintained some flourishing measure of independence under Mongol rule, an untamable defiance that survives even Danilo, who dies in 1264. The Mongols have foreseen the great trouble of conquering and holding these lands. Ogedei Khan had been warned long ago by his brother Chagatai. They're at the end of the world. They are hard people. They are people who, when they become angry, would rather die by their own swords. And there you have it, the brutal but inspiring story of how the Kievan Rus faced a Mongol juggernaut. Sure, they got steamrolled initially, but they never completely gave up. There's something to be said for that kind of stubborn resistance. The Mongols might have conquered the territory, but they never fully conquered the spirit of these people. Sometimes that's all you can ask for when facing impossible odds. What do you think? Could the Kievan Rus have united and stopped the Mongols if they hadn't been so divided? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if the story grabbed you, and subscribe for more epic tales of medieval survival and resistance. Until next time, keep exploring the stories that shaped our world.